Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video of Be the Best DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports Talk, where we count the wins as blessings and losses teach lessons. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, and this will be my Week 2 video for this upcoming NFL slate. Quick recap on Week 1. On Fanduel, for the main slate, top lineup score for me was 99.84 points. Didn't win nothing on the main slate. Draftkings, top lineup score was 148.84 on the main slate. Was able to break even with my money. I also played the Sunday-Monday slate where they had the 3 games, starting with that Cowboys and Giants game and the 2 Monday night games. I actually was able to do well on that slate. On FanDuel, I scored 145.24 points, and I took down a GPP, a $5 GPP, and won $500. I think I won about $30 on DraftKings on that same slate. So although I didn't do too well on the main slate, it was kind of disappointing. I was able to bounce back and cash for a nice profit on that 3-game Sunday, Monday night slate. And definitely, you know what I'm saying, I count the wins as a blessing. The biggest thing I take away from Week 1, definitely on FanDuel, I think team defenses were very, very important. If you had the Rams defense, it pretty much helped save your lineup. And for me, at the last minute, trying to get too cute, I took the Rams defense out and put in Buffalo's defense in a couple of my lineups, and that move pretty much cost me in my lineups on FanDuel that didn't cash. But again, I'm still blessed because I was able to cash for $530 off that Sunday, Monday slate. But Week 1's over with. Let's get started talking about this Week 2 slate. It should be exciting, ready to get to it, ready to get to the money and try to win something. So, as always, y'all know I like to start off talking about my lineups with my favorite stacks for the week. And this week, it's a hometown play, it's a hometown pick. It may seem kind of biased, but Atlanta Falcons is my top play for daily fantasy in this week too. Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. My lineup, one of my lineups will definitely have that stack in there. And let me explain my reasons. I always say on all these videos that, Matt Ryan, he struggles on the road. But at home, it's like he plays at an elevated level. And this is a Sunday night game. The first ever regular season game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I just expect, the offense to perform very, very well. We played this team in the NFC Championship, and Matt Ryan and the Falcons went up and down the field on them, blew them out, made it look easy. Now, I do know Green Bay's defense has improved on this season. It seems like based off of their Week 1 victory versus Seahawks, it seems like their defense has improved because I know last year they were banged up. But, this is the MVP in Matty Ice that we're talking about. This is the number 1 rated wide receiver on NFL Madden in 2018, and Julio Jones we talking about. Julio Jones, I think he only had like 4 to 6 targets in Week 1. They're going to get him involved in the offense this week. I definitely, truly do believe that. So, yes, on both sites, their prices are kind of high. Matt Ryan at $8,200 on FanDuel and Julio Jones at $8,800. And on DraftKings, I'm not sure what Matt Ryan's price is. I think it's $7,900 or something like that. And Julio Jones is $9,200. But despite their high price tags, I expect the performance similar to Week 4 on last year against the Panthers, like that the Falcons had with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. So that's the top stack that I'm going to build around. Yes, I'm a Falcons fan and all that. I told y'all, just look at my video last week. I really wasn't too big on Matt Ryan and Julio. If it wasn't for that Austin Hooper played, Matt Ryan would have had a very, very subpar game. But this week, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, top stack of week 2 for me. Now, I talked enough about my Falcons. There's other games on the slate. Another stack that I really, really do like is New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees, and Michael Thomas. The Patriots, I know Bill Belichick is supposed to be a great coach, a defensive guru, but the thing with the Patriots, they give up a lot of yards. At least last season, they give up a lot of yards, but they know how to not give up the touchdowns and things like that. But Drew Brees, when he's at the Superdome in New Orleans, he plays on a whole nother level. If Alex Smith can do what he did to the New England Patriots on last Thursday night, I'm very, very confident that Drew Brees at home, can put up similar numbers or even better versus the Patriots at home in New Orleans. And Michael Thomas, he's his top wide receiver target, since Brandon Cooks isn't there anymore. So definitely Drew Brees and Michael Thomas for the New Orleans Saints. That's another stack that I really, really like for week 2. It's kind of pricey. Drew Brees, I think he's, $8,700 on Fanduel, but I think he's worth the price tag this week. A third stack that I like is the Oakland Raiders with Derek Carr and Amari Cooper. I just have a feeling that, they're in a good spot right here playing against a inferior New York Jets team. Amari Cooper in week 1, he had 13 targets, so they made a concerted effort to throw him the ball. Derek Carr is the second highest paid quarterback in the league this year. They didn't pay him to just hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch. So at home in the black hole, I definitely like that stack of Amari Cooper and Derek Carr. I think that's a viable option as well as far as a quarterback wide receiver stack for week 2. Those are my top 3 stacks. Now, I want to quickly transition into just going over position by position. So, quarterback position. I already mentioned my top 3, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Derek Carr. Outside of those guys, Tom Brady's in play, but he's expensive. But, we saw what Sam Bradford did against the New Orleans Saints on Monday night. So, Tom Brady, Hall of Fame, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He's definitely in play if you can find a way to fit him in there. It should be a high-scoring game. Aaron Rodgers at 9,100. I'm a Falcons fan, but I'm not saying this only because I'm a Falcons fan. I think Aaron Rodgers is okay, but I'm not going to play him. I don't want to have any exposure to him because he really didn't look too impressive to me versus Seattle. And the Falcons, a lot of people may not know, we have a pretty fast defense. We got Desmond Trufant back. He's one of the top corners in the league. We have fast linebackers. We showed in the Super Bowl that we're able to get to the quarterback. So, yeah, it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I'd rather take Matt Ryan over Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he's great, but, I'm not on him. For this game, I'll just go with Matt Ryan, but I do understand what the reasons for wanting to play Aaron Rodgers. I just don't see it this week. Just trying to look for any other quarterbacks because, it's so many games. I don't want to talk about everybody, just the most important players that I think are in play. And the last quarterback that I think is in play this week, Cam Newton, for the Carolina Panthers. He did have a bad week, week 1, but across the NFL, again, stars really didn't play that well in general. But I always like, playing Cam Newton at home. Buffalo really isn't a great team. So Cam Newton at home versus the Bills at 7,800 rushing touchdown upside. I definitely think he's in play. But there's a plethora of quarterbacks that you can choose from. But unless you have the bankroll to like just be playing tons of lineups, you have to limit it down to a certain number. So for me, for right now, the three that I'm looking at, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and Derek Carr. And I do like Cam Newton if I had to add a fourth quarterback on the list. Let me just keep it on moving. Running back position. Running back is always important. Running back is very important. I wanted to point out something that I found in research. Y'all probably found it yourselves as well. There were only a few. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 running backs in week 1 who had 20 rushes or more. So those 6 running backs were Fournette with 26 rushing attempts, Ezekiel Elliott with 24 rushing attempts, McCoy with 22 rushing attempts, Dalvin Cook with 22 rushing attempts, Allen for Baltimore with 21 rushing attempts, and C.J. Anderson of the Broncos with 20 rushing attempts. I say that to say because that's something you have to look for with running backs. Look to see who get the most opportunities. And all those guys that I named, they got 20 or more rushing attempts in week 1. So out of those guys, Ezekiel Elliott is my top play on Fanduel at the running back position. He's 8,700. And there's reasons I like Ezekiel Elliott. He's going up against, arguably, they were the best defensive team the last 2 years in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. They are the best too. But with that being the case, people could shy away from picking Elliott because of that. Elliott, I think he's one of those running backs who's matchup proof. Like, it don't matter who he's going up against. They're going to give him his carries. The Dallas offensive line is the best in the league. His price tag at 8,700, I just think he might go low on. There's a lot of value plays out there that a lot of people may run to this week to save money because they're going to be spending up at quarterback and maybe wide receiver. And Ezekiel Elliott, especially in this matchup versus the Broncos, could very well go low on. So, I know it's kind of crazy. It might sound not logical and kind of risky and stuff like that. But on FanDuel, Ezekiel Elliott all day. Definitely got to have him. So he's my top running back. Some other running backs that I wanted to mention. These running backs had between 15 and 19 rushing attempts in week 1. Abdullah, Jalisi, Crowell, Hunt, Lamar Miller, Stewart, Marshawn Lynch, Melvin Gordon, West, Gurley, and Montgomery. They all had between 15 and 19 rushing attempts. So those guys, they were very active in the offense as well. And out of those guys, there's a couple of guys that stick out to me. Montgomery. I watched that Seattle Green Bay game. He was very much in the offense. Ty Montgomery. And, the Falcons, week 1, we let that rookie from Chicago, Cohen, however you pronounce his name, that guy, he had 12 targets. And Ty Montgomery, he has a similar skill set to Cowan. Again, I do think that's going to be a high-scoring game. So Ty Montgomery, I think he's excellent play on both sites, FanDuel, but more so on Draftkings where you get that full point per reception. Who else do I like? Let me not fail to mention this. There's a couple value plays that you definitely have to be aware of this week. You have to be aware of these guys. With David Johnson injury in Arizona, you have to be aware of Kerwin Williams of the Arizona Cardinals. The head coach announced that, Williams will be the number 1 running back. But on FanDuel, it seemed like they got his pricing right. They got him at 6,100. So, you just have to be strategic about how you use them on FanDuel, because they got them priced right. You can't even get them for no value. But on DraftKings, he's 4,800. I think he can be an excellent value play at that price. If they utilize him in the offense similar to the way that they use David Johnson. So Kerwin Williams for the Arizona Cardinals. Make sure you be aware of him, and he could be definitely a salary saver on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, you have to be a little more strategic with it, because he's priced at $6,100. Let me see. Another running back that I wanted to mention for value, more so on DraftKings. It's kind of hard to find value on FanDuel. But Cowan for the Chicago Bears, he's 4,100 on DraftKings. Let me see how much. And he's 5,400 on FanDuel, which is a decent value. One thing that was good about this guy Cohen for the Chicago Bears, the rookie running back, although they have Jordan Howard in the backfield, this guy had 12 targets in the passing game. 12 targets for a running back. That could come up big on DraftKings, and on FanDuel at that price of $5,400, he's definitely in play as well. So I do like him for value at the running back position. Let me see other running backs I want to mention: Ty Montgomery, Elliott, Williams, Cowan. For the Falcons, it's kind of tricky. I know one of these running backs is going to have a good game, but in week 1, it seemed like the coaching staff, they utilized Tevin Coleman a little more than Freeman. So it's kind of hard to determine, which one would do well. But Freeman or Coleman, I think they're both in line to have a good game. You can do Coleman for value, Freeman if you want to pay up. But one of those two are going to have a good game. It's just like with Coleman and Freeman for the Falcons, they take away from each other from production. When one of them score a touchdown, that's taking away a touchdown from the other one. So, but both of them, you just have to decide which one you like more. Ajayi, I do like him. In the preseason, he's been. The Dolphins, they had off week 1, but in the preseason, he was, running 3 downs. He was playing like a 3-down back. And we know he had like 3 or 4 200-yard rushing games on last year. The Chargers not a defense to be scared of. The game is in California, I believe, so the weather should be nice. I do like Ajayi at 7,900. I like him. Let me see if there's any other running backs that I really need to mention. I'm not really big on LaShawn McCoy. I'm not too big on Ty Gurley. I could be wrong. I just try to limit my pool because, I have only a limited number of lineups to work with. So I limited to like just a few players. But just overall, I just have to say Ezekiel Elliott for sure on FanDuel. He's my top running back on FanDuel. And on DraftKings, I love Ty Montgomery. You gotta love him with how he can receive the ball in the passing game. And again, on DraftKings, the rookie Cowan. And you also want to have your exposure to Kerwin Williams of the Arizona Cardinals with David Johnson being out. So somebody's going to have to pick up their usage. Let's keep it moving. Wide receiver. I wrote down the same kind of statistic that I wrote down for running backs with the running backs with 20 or more rushing attempts. I wrote down all the receivers that had 10 or more targets on week 1. And the receivers that had those 10 or more targets are Hopkins of the Texans, Randall Cobb with 13, Fitzgerald with 13, Amari Cooper with 13, Calhoun with 12 targets, Golden Tate with 12 targets, Terrell Pryor with 11, Antonio Brown with 11 targets, Vereen with 10 targets, Garcon with 10 targets, Keenan Allen with 10 targets, Davis with 10 targets, Thielen with 10 targets, and Green with 10 targets. I believe that's AJ Green, if I'm not mistaken. But out of these guys with 10 or more targets week one, the guys at receivers that I really like, you gotta love Antonio Brown. What he did week one, he was one of the stars that showed up. What he had, 10 or 11 catches for 180 yards, I think. So Antonio Brown, yeah, he's pricey, but if you can fit him in there, you gotta fit him in there because he's a target monster, and he definitely get his catches. Yeah, 11 targets, 11 receptions for 182 yards, and he didn't even get a touchdown. So definitely Antonio Brown, he's at the top of the list. I mentioned Julio with my stack. I mentioned Amari Cooper with my stack. I mentioned Michael Thomas with my stack. I like Fitzgerald again this week. Going up against the Colts defense, no David Johnson, so his usage might get bumped up. He had 13 targets in week one. He really didn't do too much against Detroit, but I do like him again for this week on both sides. I like Larry Fitzgerald. Who else? Again, I like Cowan for the Bears. 12 targets from a running back for a running back. That's amazing. Let me look through this wide receiver pool. I like Doug Baldwin. Seattle, they play better at home, and playing against a inferior 49ers team at home, I do like Doug Baldwin for 7,600. I like him on Draftkings as well. Let's see. I'm kind of indecisive about Keenan Allen, but he did have 10 targets on week one, so he's someone you should definitely consider. For the Falcons, outside of Julio, if I had to pick a second receiver, Taylor Gabriel, I believe he's 4,000 on DraftKings. He might be 4,500. Wait, how much? He 4,900 on Fanduel. But Gabriel can take a screen pass and take a short screen pass and go 70 yards for a touchdown. So if you are about, stacking the Falcons like I am, I think Taylor Gabriel is also a good little sneaky option to use. Let's see, any other receivers really worth mentioning? I'm not sure what the chemistry is going to be like between Jarvis, Landry, and Jay Cutler. I'm really not sure what to expect. And again, at the beginning of this video, I know I said I like the Patriots, but it's just so hard to determine, who's going to get the production. I mean, is it going to be Hogan, Amendola, Gronkowski, Brandon Cooks, coming back to New Orleans? It's kind of hard to figure out who Tom Brady's going to pass the ball to. But I would say that, the receiving core, along with Gronkowski, they're all in play, for the New England Patriots. I think those are the main receivers worth mentioning for me. So again, my receiver is gonna just correlate with my stacks: Julio, Amari Cooper, and Michael Thompson. And other good plays, of course, Antonio Brown, Doug Baldwin. But I would suggest kind of research which players are getting the most targets. Because when you have those target opportunities, that give you the opportunities for the catches, the yards, the touchdowns, and the fantasy production that we need, to be successful in these NFL lineups. And let's move it on to the last skill position, tight end position. So for this week, for tight end, there's one value play that I really, really, really like this week. And I know it's unpopular, and I know a lot of y'all watching this may disagree, but Antonio Gates, I know he's old. I know he may be, some people may think he's washed up, but I believe in Antonio Gates. They played the Denver Broncos in week one, so, you can't expect him to get too much production. But on DraftKings, he's at a price of $3,000. I think he's like one of the top value plays on DraftKings. He's 5,300, I believe, on Fanduel. He's definitely in play. So I love Antonio Gates. He's one of my top plays for value at the tight end position, on this week too. But Zach Ertz, you gotta love Ertz. 6,100 on FanDuel. He had 8 targets in week 1, 8 receptions, 93 yards. Zach Ertz, he's the top receiving option in my opinion on Philadelphia for right now. So I definitely like Zach Ertz as a tight end option. I do see Gronkowski, but for me, he's just too expensive. He probably will be low owned, but you just never know what the Patriots going to do, so I can't do it. Gronkowski is a great play, but for daily fantasy purposes, the price is too high, and the Patriots, they just unpredictable. So, I can't really go there for me. And let me quickly mention Hooper. Hooper was the top scoring fantasy tight end, in week 1, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. But he only had 2 targets. He may get some ownership based off of what he did on last week, but I won't be playing Hooper, at least not on FanDuel. I'm not sure about on DraftKings, but I'm not playing Hooper. He only had 2 targets. It's all about Julio for me, Matt Ryan and Julio. Let's see. And I guess, in my opinion, for tight end, try to base it around your stacks. If you're using Drew Brees, go ahead and use Kobe Fleener. If you're using Tom Brady, go ahead and use Rob Gronkowski. If you're using Cam Newton, go ahead and use Greg Olsen. But I think that's the best way to go. Try to stack your tight end with your quarterback if the price is right. But for value, I do like Antonio Gates, especially on DraftKings. And just as far as just tight end in general, I like Zach Ertz, because it seems like, he's the top option for can't remember the Eagles quarterback name. Carson Wentz. Yeah, that's his name. And, the video getting kind of long, so I'm going to close it out. Kicker and team defense is very, very, very important. I blew it by, taking the Rams out. I said the Rams on the video, and I put Buffalo in there, and that cost me. But I would say Seattle and Oakland, the top 2 price, they probably in line for good games. But you never know with these team defenses, but they're in line. And for kickers, kind of look at the over-under totals, the highest scoring games, and go with that. So I would think Matt Bryant for the Falcons and Crosby, both those kickers. The kickers in the Saints and the Patriots game, Will Lutz and Steven Gostkowski, they're in play. They'll probably be 4 of the top plays that I look at the kicker position. So, see if there's anything else that I did not mention. Just looking at my notes, making sure I don't forget nothing. Oh, the only other thing I didn't mention, Kamara for the Saints. Keep an eye on him because he's 3,500. He had a lot of usage, so he could be good value on DraftKings. Kamara, the running back for the New Orleans Saints. So that's my video for, this upcoming week 2. Again, thank everyone for taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button and subscribe. Tell people about it. Thank everyone for your support. If you want to follow me through all social medias, just search the tag #BeTheBestDFS, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course this YouTube channel. But week 1 is in the books. Again, my motto is count the wins as blessings, losses teach lessons. I hit for $500. Thank God for that. It's definitely a blessing. The power had went out here because of Hurricane Irma, so I didn't have power. woke up on Tuesday morning, woke up to a blessing. And I know that's all God. You know, that's what I believe, because I'm a man of faith and I'm not ashamed of it. So if y'all hear me talking about that, I'm going to keep stressing that, because life is bigger than just, fantasy sports and money. It's bigger than that. So I definitely thank God for that. But looking forward to week 2. Again, week 2 is going to be good. Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, top stack of the week. So again, make sure y'all follow me on all social media. Thank everybody for tuning in, looking at this video. And I'll try to put out another one for week 3. And hope everyone have a blessed day, blessed night, have a blessed week. Wish everyone much success in their lineups and everything this week. Hope y'all win some money and all that. I'm done talking. Catch y'all next time. And as always, try to be the best. All right, I'm out of here.